Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Raywat Deonandan, epidemiologist and associate professor with the Interdisciplinary School of Health Sciences at the University of Ottawa, as well as the current chair in university teaching. In this video, I'm summarizing my article titled Resist the Randomized Control Trial Fetish. Different questions require different pyramids of evidence. In it, I explain why randomized controlled trials, or RCTs, aren't always the gold standard people think they are, and why applying them indiscriminately can mislead how we interpret evidence. In May of 2024, Greenhalgh and colleagues published a narrative review on mask effectiveness, concluding that masks can indeed prevent respiratory infections. Interestingly, this conclusion clashed with earlier interpretations, especially the popular 2023 Cochrane review, which relied only on RCTs, and concluded that the evidence on masks was, quote-unquote, uncertain. So the question becomes, why do respected reviews arrive at such different views? One key reason is an overestimation of the value of the RCT in the pyramid of evidence. In medical school, doctors are taught that randomized controlled trials sit at the top of the evidence pyramid, more reliable than observational studies or case reports. This is because RCTs are designed to minimize bias by randomly assigning participants to treatment or control groups. RCTs are especially useful when individual human variation, genetics, lifestyle, behavior, makes it hard to see real effects. They let us average out that noise to detect whether a drug or policy truly works. That's why they are essential for testing medications, where we want to know, for example, whether a new drug improves outcomes compared to a placebo. But there's an important caveat. Not all interventions behave like drugs. Think about seatbelts, parachutes, or gas masks. We don't test their effectiveness with RCTs because these are engineering interventions with inherently predictable outcomes. There's a famous tongue-in-cheek RCT of parachutes, which shows that there are no real RCTs for things whose effectiveness doesn't vary much from person to person, and for which the control group is inherently unethical. In the case of masks, the same logic applies. The effectiveness of mask material itself isn't a human biological variable. It's measurable in the lab. What does vary is how people use masks, comply with mandates, or adopt policies. That's a behavioral question, not an effectiveness question. The key message is this: different scientific questions require different hierarchies of evidence. RCTs are great for measuring average treatment effects for things like drugs in a variable population. Lab trials and observational studies are better for engineering or public health interventions, where variation is in behavior, not in the effect itself. Systematic reviews that rigidly exclude all but RCTs run the risk of ignoring valid evidence from well-conducted observational studies and lab research. So in my paper, I argue that 1. Evidence is not one-size-fits-all, context matters. 2. RCTs are powerful, but not magical. And 3. Observational studies, lab tests, and other methods have a valid place in evidence synthesis. The goal isn't to dethrone RCTs, it's to recalibrate how we use evidence, especially when evaluating interventions where human behavior, compliance, or engineering principles are central. To wrap up, evidence hierarchies should be tools, not dogma. By understanding the strengths and limits of each study type, we can interpret evidence more accurately, design better reviews, and ultimately make better decisions, whether it's about masks, policies, or public health interventions. Thanks for watching. If you want a deeper dive into how we think about evidence in science and medicine, let me know in the comments.